What if I told you your arthritis pain isn't just aging, it's something you're eating, every single day? For years, seniors have been told, it's just normal wear and tear. But that's a dangerous myth. Because new research now shows that certain foods, not only ease arthritis symptoms, but may help reverse the damage done to your joints. And here's the real surprise, one of them costs less than a cup of coffee, and it's probably in your pantry right now. Collision. In today's video, I'll reveal 6 powerful plant-based proteins that don't just reduce inflammation, they rebuild the tissue your joints depend on. Older adult, and make sure you stay with me, because I'll also share a real story of a 70-year-old man who canceled his surgery after changing just 2 things on his plate. White heavy check mark if you or someone you love is living with joint pain. Hit that subscribe button now. We share practical, doctor-backed advice every week to help you feel younger, move better, and live pain-free. Backhand index pointing right now. Let's start with a simple food that could begin changing your joints in just 7 days. Part 1. The truth about arthritis inflammation. If you're over 60, chances are you've felt it, that tight, burning sensation deep in your joints. The kind that doesn't just ache, but lingers. It's not a minor nuisance. It's your body's red warning light. You may have been told it's just part of getting old. But that's a myth. And I'm here, as someone who's worked with older adults for over 30 years, to tell you the truth. Arthritis isn't just wear and tear. It's not just about age. It's about chronic inflammation, a silent, internal storm wreaking havoc on your joints. Think of your immune system as a home security system. When working right, it protects you from invaders. But with arthritis, that system goes haywire. It starts mistaking your healthy joints for intruders, launching an attack. White blood cells swarm your cartilage. Chemicals like cytokines and prostaglandins flood in, tearing down what should protect you. The result? Swelling, stiffness, and relentless pain. But here's the shocking part, many of the foods you eat every day may be fueling this fire. Processed meats, sugary snacks, refined grains, these foods don't just affect your waistline. They send inflammatory signals through your entire body. And the joints? They're always the first victims. But here's the good news, just as food can hurt you, it can heal you. Certain plant proteins contain compounds that fight inflammation at the source. We're talking about foods that not only reduce pain but help restore the damaged tissue in your joints. And unlike prescription meds, they do it without nasty side effects. In a moment, I'll walk you through the 6 best options. But first, a small favor. Backhand index pointing right if you find this information helpful so far, or if you're struggling with arthritis and want better natural solutions, please comment below and subscribe to our channel. It helps us reach more people and motivates us to create more life-changing videos. Now, are you ready to discover how a simple food like chickpeas can help you move with ease again? Backhand index pointing right coming up, the underrated legume that starts reducing inflammation in just 7 days. Part 2, Chickpeas, the humble hero of joint relief. Let's start with something simple. Something you've probably walked past in the store 100 times, chickpeas. These small, beige legumes might not look like much, but inside them is a powerhouse of joint-soothing nutrients that could completely change how you move, how you sleep, and how you live. Chickpeas are loaded with plant-based protein, about 9 grams per serving. But more importantly, they contain polyphenol, powerful antioxidants that work like firefighters, putting out the chronic inflammatory flames that attack your joints from the inside. One of my patients, a retired gardener, came in nearly in tears from knee pain. We made just 2 changes, swapped out his red meat lunches for chickpea salad 3 times a week, and added turmeric. After a month, his mobility improved so much, he cancelled his cortisone shot. These legumes also bring in vitamin C, essential for producing collagen, the structural protein that keeps your joints cushioned and strong. And they're high in magnesium, which calms muscle tension and relieves joint stiffness. But there's one more thing: fiber. Chickpeas are rich in soluble fiber, which helps control blood sugar. And when your blood sugar is stable, inflammation stays down. Every time you avoid that sugar spike, you're protecting your joints from another wave of pain. Try this. Mash chickpeas into hummus with garlic and lemon, toss them on a salad, or roast them with olive oil and paprika for a crunchy snack. Even one serving, a few times a week, can be a game changer. And here's a tip from the clinic: pair chickpeas with turmeric or ginger to double the anti-inflammatory effect. Backhand index pointing right. Next up, an ancient grain so powerful, it was once called the gold of the Andes, and it might be the secret to unlocking pain-free mornings. Part 3, Quinoa, the golden grain that soothes stiffness. Quinoa isn't just a trendy superfood, it's a healing gift from ancient civilizations. It's not technically a grain, but a seed that delivers all 9 essential amino acids. That's rare in the plant world. And it makes quinoa a complete protein source, perfect for older adults looking to stay strong and supple. But the real magic is in its anti-inflammatory flavonoids, particularly quercetin and camphorol. These natural compounds act like sentinels, blocking the very same inflammatory pathways that over-the-counter arthritis medications try to suppress. Quinoa is also packed with magnesium, which helps relax tense muscles and nerves around inflamed joints. A single serving gives you nearly a third of your daily requirement. And because quinoa has a low glycemic index, it won't spike your blood sugar, another major win for keeping inflammation in check. Many older adults I work with have replaced white rice with quinoa at dinner. The results? Less swelling, easier movement in the morning, and more restful sleep. Green salad: try making a warm quinoa bowl with roasted vegetables, or a breakfast porridge with cinnamon, chia seeds, and almond milk. Backhand index pointing right. Stick around, because what we're about to reveal next costs less than a cup of coffee, but may relieve years of joint pain. Part 4, Lentils, the budget superfood for reliable relief. Lentils are the underdog of arthritis recovery. They don't get flashy marketing campaigns. They don't come in trendy packaging. But they deliver results, and they do it affordably. A single cup of cooked lentils gives you about 18 grams of protein, a generous dose of magnesium, and a flood of potassium, the mineral that helps counter sodium, reduce swelling, and maintain fluid balance in your joints. Even better, lentils are packed with folate, vitamin B9, which helps regulate homocysteine, a compound linked with increased inflammation and cartilage damage in older adults. I always tell my patients this: if you're on a fixed income and can only pick one healing food, pick lentils. They're reliable, accessible, and incredibly easy to cook. Pot of food: make a big pot of lentil stew with carrots, turmeric, and black pepper. Freeze it in batches. It's like having a prescription that comes from your freezer instead of the pharmacy. Backhand index pointing right. Coming next, the crunchy snack that actually rebuilds your joints, while you snack. Part 5, Almonds, crunch your way to better joints. Sometimes, the simplest habits make the biggest difference. And almonds? They might just be the easiest joint healing habit you'll ever form. These tiny powerhouses are packed with monounsaturated fats, the kind of healthy fats that actually reduce inflammation, not cause it. Unlike processed oils or red meat, almonds help calm the storm inside your joints. They also contain vitamin E, an antioxidant that protects joint cells from oxidative damage. The form found in almonds, alpha-tocopherol, is especially potent, embedding into your cell membranes like a suit of armor against inflammation. You also get magnesium, which helps your muscles relax and your joints move smoothly, and bioavailable calcium, which keeps your bones strong without relying on dairy, which, for many seniors, can actually increase inflammation. In one clinical study, older adults who ate 23 almonds daily reduced their inflammation markers by over 30%, with zero side effects. Peanuts. Try this: eat a small handful of raw, unsalted almonds between meals. Or toss sliced almonds into oatmeal, quinoa bowls, or even a smoothie. Backhand index pointing right, ready to go beyond snacks. Because the next plant protein isn't just food, it's a complete healing system hidden in plain sight. Part 6, Tofu, the Eastern cure you've never tried. Tofu has been around for over 2,000 years. But for seniors battling arthritis, it might feel brand new. Here's why it matters. Tofu is made from fermented soybeans and delivers a balanced profile of complete protein, healthy fats, and, most importantly, isoflavones. These are natural plant compounds that behave like gentle regulators in your body. Two of these, genistein and daidzein, have been shown to block the enzymes that break down cartilage. And they do it without disrupting your body's healthy systems the way many synthetic drugs do. Tofu is also rich in omega-3 fatty acids, selenium, a mineral that boosts your antioxidant defenses, and B vitamins, which help reduce joint pain and fatigue. Many seniors find that after switching from red meat to tofu, they feel lighter, less inflamed, and even sleep better. Fork and knife with plate. Try grilling firm tofu with a turmeric marinade, stir-frying it with anti-inflammatory veggies, or blending silken tofu into smoothies for added creaminess and protein. Backhand index pointing right. Don't miss what's coming next, because it's the tiniest food on our list, but it delivers the biggest omega-3 punch. Part 7, Chia seeds, the tiny giant of inflammation fighting. Chia seeds are smaller than a grain of rice, but don't let their size fool you. They pack more anti-inflammatory power than most medications. Just 1 tablespoon delivers 5 grams of omega-3 fatty acids, particularly ALA, alpha-linolenic acid, which transforms into inflammation-fighting compounds in your body. Chia also contains complete plant protein, magnesium, and soluble fiber, which turns into a gel when it absorbs water. This gel slows digestion, stabilizes blood sugar, and reduces inflammatory flare-ups. The seeds are also rich in quercetin and camphorol, the same flavonoids found in quinoa, known to block cartilage-degrading enzymes. Spoon. Try this: soak 2 tablespoons in almond milk overnight, add cinnamon, and top with berries for a pudding-like breakfast that heals your joints as you eat. One of my patients calls it the miracle dessert, and for good reason. Backhand index pointing right. Up next, how to tie everything together into a daily rhythm that doesn't just ease arthritis, but might help reverse it. Part 8, the daily plan, how to combine these 6 for maximum relief. You now know the 6 most powerful plant-based proteins for arthritis. But what do you do with that knowledge? You build your meals around them. White heavy checkmark. Start your day with chia seed pudding or a tofu smoothie. White heavy checkmark. For lunch, a lentil soup or chickpea salad. White heavy checkmark. Dinner, quinoa with roasted veggies and sliced almonds on top. White heavy checkmark. Snacks, raw almonds, hummus with veggies, a scoop of chia in your water. These foods don't just reduce pain, They help rebuild cartilage, improve flexibility, and reduce the need for medication. And best of all, they're easy to find, affordable, and safe. And remember, no one changes everything overnight. Just start with one food today. Then 2. Build up slowly. Your joints didn't get inflamed in a day, and they won't heal in a day either. But with time and consistency, the healing happens. Backhand index pointing right. Imagine walking without pain. Holding your grandchild without fear of dropping them. Dancing to your favorite song without wincing. That future is possible. And it starts with what's on your plate. Final takeaways: your joints deserve a second chance. Let's wrap this up with 3 powerful lessons. 1. Inflammation is not your destiny, it's your body asking for help. And food is the fastest way to respond. 2. Consistency beats intensity. You don't need to go all in overnight. Just show up for your joints every single day, one bite at a time. 3. Your plate is your power. Medications may mask symptoms. But these foods? They help you heal from the inside out. Light bulb: if you're over 60 and living with arthritis, the message is clear: you have more control than you think. Small changes in your diet can unlock massive improvements in your mobility, independence, and peace of mind. So go ahead, start with one food. Rebuild from the inside out. And when that pain fades, remember, it wasn't magic. It was you. You made the choice to eat for healing. Folded hands. If this video helped you, please support our mission by subscribing to Senior Health Tips, clicking that like button, and sharing this video with someone else who might be quietly suffering. Your encouragement helps us keep going, and helps others discover natural ways to heal. Until next time, stay strong, stay curious, and keep Senior Health Tips.